outside. So that yield gaps and increasing production units. So this is one of the strategies to face increasing food demand. Uh, Production units in a small place should be increased. That's one thing. That's one of the strategies proposed. And reducing food waste is very very important. And just in Chennai, just in that one market, Coimbatore market, I heard there are like a lots and like lakhs of food is wasted just in one day. So almost 30 to 40% of food, both in developing and the developed world, are getting wasted, just wasted. It could feed a whole nation. So food waste is a lot, and there is a whole study going on just on food waste. And so reducing food waste becomes one of the strategies, one of the main strategies, and changing diets because more people are starting to eat more meat. Fish production is there, and poultry production. So, but these days, very recently, people are aware about all the food alternatives, and people actually talk things like veganism and stuff. So they are aware of these things, changing diets from us in a sustainable way, because growing cattle is again another huge thing that's going to affect environment in a negative way. So these are the four strategies that in general has had been proposed from this by this paper. And hydroponics becomes one of the solutions, one of the main solutions of how these all things are going to be faced. And so if you just put water and the nutrient mix together and the plant's going to grow. The concept seems very simple, and but people are not doing it because of many reasons. First would be the production cost. Production cost would be less and less as the time progress, but the initial cost of capital investment for people to set up a hydroponic, for erect a hydroponic polyhouse, is going to be a lot, and people are going to be concerned about that. And they hesitate mainly because it's the nutrient mix that you see, the A and B, those are just macro and micronutrients that we study in plant biotechnology, basic salts that we use for the plants to grow. And it's just what they need, that we are just giving exactly what they need right at their roots. So there won't be any need of any extra things, and there won't be anything affecting the plants from outside. And hydroponics can be grown in a controlled environment. So it is possible to monitor and have more control on the hydroponic system over the conventional farming. But it's just not it. It's hydroponics is something that people are still hesitating to set up. So uh, there are different types of growing methods as well. It's just few of the methods are nutrient film techniques and vertical towers. Nutrient film techniques is just give us water, what water we get from the nutrient mix into the roots directly in all the growing methods, especially when it comes to nutrient film technique. It's just a film of water running through tunnel, and the plant the are just going to get exposed to that film of water. And so the roots are just directly going to get their nutrients right from the water. And the plants that cannot the plants with just a smaller root system can be grown in this method. So there are different methods that can be adapted for different plants according to however the root system is going to be. We can decide with the growing method. So NFT is a method that can be used for leafy greens and herbs, and little fruiting plants like strawberries, especially strawberries. Many people are growing these days in in NFT hydroponics. And there is vertical tower. Vertical tower still decreases the water usage. It's going to get distributed in a less less volume. So it's just a tower that's going to be vertically standing, and we just put the roots just to be face side of the tower, and the water is going to be dripping from the top, and it's just going to get directly um, put into the roots, just the roots of the plants, and the excess water is just going to get drained off, and it's going to back. So again, this all the hydroponic methods, as we know, are just circulating systems. So you just we just have the water here, and the nutrient mix is to be given, and the nutrient mix are going to be given right at the roots, and the plants are going to get placed in on a substrate for them to stand, and the water, nutrient depleted water, is just going to go back into the sump where we store the actual water where the nutrient is. So it's a closed loop, and all the waters that are going to run through these systems are going to go back into the sump where there are more nutrients going to be added for the depleted nutrients. And we have the DWC, which is deep water culture. Just use a raft, which is just a float we can play the plants on the as a whole. We're going to place it on the water system, and this is very similar to NFT, and people use this just an alternative, but similar kinds of plants can be used in this way. And especially I use this when people have a horizontal space, and in a very small space, we can use NFT, so it can be stacked up one above the other in a vertical way. Uh, so that's going to take more energy, because more energy is going to get needed for pump the water to that height from the sump, and it's going to be energy efficient. So this one's going to be energy efficient because it's horizontal. There is no height, and not a lot of height, so there is not energy needed. People that are going for similar crops but have a lot of land, a lot of space for us to have, the whole horizontal farm can go with deep water culture. That is the only difference between these two. And we also have ebb and flow and aeroponics. I usually go ebb and flow because that's efficient, and there are wine crops can be grown in ebb and flow system, because in ebb and flow system just water is just going to raise to some level. As you can see, there are like water uh, dropping systems there where the water is going to get filled ebb, and it's just going to get automatically flown down to the back to the sump. So the advantage of using this is there are also uh, you know it can be used for growing stronger root system, like all the vine crops, and people are even growing banana trees in this. So that's ebb and flow. And we have aeroponics, which is another interesting concept, which is spraying the air, not just letting the water flow. It's spraying the air right on top of the roots in a closed system. So water is just uh, going to make the inside of the closed system very humid, and that water is rich in nutrients. So the nutrients are just going to get directly sprayed onto the roots. So this is one of the vertical systems that can set up when it comes to leafy greens and herbs. So these are just the growing methods, and I'm just going to talk about this slide again. This is a very important slide that I want to insist on, because there's another strategy that I'm trying to focus on. Uh, After all these general things, there is one thing called expanding aquaculture. Aquaculture, we know what aquaculture is: just growing, it's just raising fishes, and it means that expanding aquaculture urban spaces. When this whole paper talks about efficient strategies to adapt to increase food security in the urban space. So when it comes to aquaculture, um, there is going to be effluents and disease treatment chemicals are going to be put into the water bodies that we have. That's going to affect the environment again, and it's going to affect the terrestrial food production as well, because it's going to exploit the land or wherever it's going to put in. So it's going to become uh, hard in case of aquaculture, just in case of aquaculture when we are just throwing effluents away. So there is a concept called RAS, and that's where aquaponics comes in. RAS is recirculating aquaculture system. That just means that whatever effluent, whatever the waste that comes out of the aquaculture system are going to get treated in a proper way, and they are just going to the water is just going to get purified and put back into the same system. So we don't have effluents or a lot of chemicals to be put into or dumped into the other land outside. So that's where aquaponic comes in. Aquaponics is what I'm doing personally. It's just a method of growing plants along with raising fishes. So it's aquaculture plus hydroponics put together. You just take all the disadvantages of aquaculture, and then you put that with the advantages of hydroponics, and you get aquaponics. That's just going to be mostly all advantages. This has been there. If you just look into the history of aquaponics, it's been there around since the civilization started. There is a proof that uh, before people started cultivating rice using this method 1500 years ago in Asia. So it's not something new. People have been growing this, but it's going to be in the urban space. It's going to be working better in urban space because of all the advancements in technologies we have right now, and in all the studies that has been done on recirculating aquaculture system. So what's happening here is we have the aquaculture system growing the fish, and what fish excretes is going to be containing ammonia and ammonium salts, and that's going to be fed to the mineralization tank where the nitration is going to happen through organisms and microorganisms, and it's just getting nitrified. So ammonia and ammonium salts are going to get nitrified into nitrates and then nitrates, which is what the plant need. And so that's going to the water is just going to get circulated to the plants. So the plants are going to get the nutrients from the water that's been nitrified, and then it's going to the plants are just going to take the nutrients in, and the water is just going to put back into the fish now that there is no ammonia left, so it won't be harmful for fishes. So this is where the whole solution comes in, where we don't have to use the macro and the micronutrients from outside as salts. So this is a complete ecosystem in itself. So the only thing we have to be giving from outside as an input will be the fish feed. And so there are so many studies going on for fish feed, which is just going to get differed for each fish that we are going to grow. So there is a lot of factors that need to be studied in each of the variables that you see here. Uh, there are going to be different fishes that's going to be used, and if you just want to set up an aquaponics farm just for the food production, you need not to worry about the aquaculture production. So you can use environmental fishes like koi. I was working for 2 years. It's an excellent fish. It's just adaptive, just like tilapia, and it was growing very well. And we had to feed like little fishes, and it was just growing till 500, average of 500 grams, and there was a good growth, and there was no problem with goldfishes. So in those cases where we are just going to concentrate on crop production, we can use some kind of fishes. And if we are considering aquaculture as well, we can find aquaculture fishes as well. People are using tilapia a lot. It's very easy to maintain fish, and it's adaptive for many environmental changes, and it grows very well in changing weather. So however the weather is outside, it's just going to be just fine. I've seen that as well. So, tilapia is a very good choice. In that case, feed is going to be different. And for just for the feed, what we are going to put in, we have to study the composition of feed. That becomes important because whatever feed we are going to give, it's going to either get digested by the fishes and out into the water, which is what is going to get utilized as the nutrients, or just going to be standing there, and it's just going to settle down. It's going to affect and contaminate the whole system. So we need to be careful in picking the fish feed, which is the only component we give from outside. And the water, of course, is going to get in the pilot farm that I've been researching. We had this pilot farm in Hyderabad, in which we had the water running for 2 years, and we just cleaned the system, complete system once, and that was the only time we had to put in new water. And we did that in a way that also the fishes could adapt. Uh, so basically, hydroponics method uses, as you might have known, 95 percentage of less water than what we use in conventional farming. So this thing becomes is just going to be there as a important part of urban agriculture. And so advantages of aquaponics over hydroponics is that aquaponics is easily organic. There is no way that the whole system could work with you putting in anything else other than the feed from outside. You put the chemical in, the plant's going to get the fishes are going to get affected more. So they are going to die, and that's going to affect the whole system. So unless it's completely organic, the system wouldn't work at all. So it's easily organic, and there is a complete ecosystem happening, and so the production of fishes is going to be a lot easier, because it's a process by which it filters the system, and it's just going to be self-sufficient on its in a way that it's going to be set up. So it becomes good for aquaculture production, just for production of fishes as well. We can just grow plants just like little plants like leafy greens, for example, and set up a media bed system. Media bed is what ebb and flow method is. This what we have ebb and flow is a media bed. We also call it media bed because we are going to use a grow media on it, and it can be expanded clay. We call it clay balls, right? So that's one thing, and we can also use gravels, which is very cheap, and it is efficient as well. So sorry. Okay, yeah. So with that in mind, there are going to be more aquaponic advantages that's going to be there, that could possibly convince people to set up more of it in the urban space. And so when it comes to sustainability, aquaponic becomes sustainable in a way that we don't need anything from outside except for the little power supply from outside, just for the pumps that we are going to work on. And even for that, it is possible to set up a solar system, solar energy, and people are working on that as well, calculating how much solar energy for a particular yield. of of crop growth. So sustainability is a main thing when it comes to all the environmental concerns. We need not to dispose any water outside once in a while, just how we do in hydroponics. So it's a complete solution for all the things. And the opportunities in aquaponics, when it comes to aquaponics, there are a lot of study opportunities because people started framing the term aquaponics and started learning about aquaponics, put those into research. Everything started around 2010. So not many people have worked on it, and there is a huge need for many things to be studied when it comes to aquaponics. Just starting with the fish anatomy and the fish physiology, and when it comes to feed composition, which are going to be given to the fish, and when it comes to different growing methods and the efficient way of using energy from outside, and the economics. So I've just listed few of the things here. I'm just going to read these things because all these things are entirely different, and it's just different streams where people can work on just in this topic. So to reduce carbon footprint becomes the environmental study, arriving at zero waste in each of the aquaponic system that we set in. So we can work on uh, each farm that's going to be set up. Each farm is going to be different, and we had problems every single day. Every other day, we had some problem that we had to fix, and there are going to be a lot of studies that should be done to just to face all those problems, and especially when it comes to environmental concerns, reducing the carbon footprint, because it's going to get intensified in many ways. There is environmental concerns as well. So we have to reuse many things, recycle many things. There are going to be lots of plastic going to be used when it comes to NFTs and vertical systems, in ebb and flow and media, but it can be used in different ways. It's just the media that we are going to grow. We can erect any kind of steel, or any kind of recyclable material. So that becomes the environmental concern, and there can be a study in biology as well, using novel organisms, just not the fishes that's been studied before, like tilapia and koi and carp fish. And people are learning about freshwater fishes as well, and prawns. Few of There is a set of fishes that have been already studied to be applied in aquaponics, but there is a lot more which needed to be studied for, and that becomes the biology side of the opportunity. And there is how we are going to convince people to set this up. That in itself is a huge thing, because all of these don't matter if people are not going to adapt it, and it is much more convincible, because it's going to be organic and it makes sense, because it's going to not work otherwise. So economically, when it comes to the sustainability of making the farm stand right in place of where it is for a really long time, we how we communicate with the consumers is it becomes really important. So that becomes the um, economy of it, and improving the profitability in every efficient way possible. um, Starting right from the solar energy that I was talking about, and not just that, whatever input we put in, and using saltwater. People are using experimenting on saltwater aquaponics, where the saltwater from the ocean is going to get filtered, and it's going to get used for the entire other system. The only reason was the salt that had been filtered. It's just going to get dumped from somewhere. So people are coming up with ideas like producing salt from what it is, what it's been filtered with. So that's such a business opportunity that comes in there. And there can be operational management. Operational management when it comes to a little transport, just when we talk about peri-urban agriculture, it can be even sent to transported to a lot more space. And we can study about transport sensitive varieties of crops, and even in the operation management, the whole logistics, that there are many possible studies that can be done. Architectural design becomes a major part of aquaponics and urban agriculture in general, because it's going to be planned in a way that it's going to be integrated into the buildings, on top of the buildings, inside the buildings, under the buildings. So there is a huge study that can be done just for the architectural designing of it. And there is nutrients, obviously. There are few things like potassium that can be put in a little amount that will not affect the fish, but still can be included in the system for growth of, let's say, a tomato plant that needs a little bit of potassium from outside. So those kind of things can still be studied for the nutrients, and how it affects the nutrition is a whole another study. So all these are just opportunities where people can work on, just in this aquaponic topics. And in general when it comes to when it comes to urban agriculture. So when so all these things put together becomes the business in aquaponics. And what I'm showing here is a, a typical cycle of how the any product is going to get accepted by people. So there is going to be a lot of expectations when it comes to any new technology. And this blue line, this says a hype level, and that just means that it's just going to increase with the lots of hype. With the term, when we say aquaponics, it's all new and not many people know about it. And when we talk about aquaponics to many people, it's just going to be in hype, and all the prices are going to be in hike, and demand's going to increase. And once it reaches a certain point, it's just going to go down. And with there is with the same thing happening over and over again, there are no new things to adapt. It's just going to get completely reduced, and that becomes the hype level. But what we can concentrate on when it comes to aquaponics is this Gartner hype cycle, which is just proposed that with the increase in the hype, adapting all these things that we see here, with the hype everywhere about any new techniques, with the proper studies, that's where these opportunities come in. When we study all these things and apply all these things to aquaponics, that's where it is going to get increased. It's going to see a hike at this point, where it's going to achieve a certain saturation, where it's not going to go down anymore, and it's just going to stay in a way that it's going to be stable for a really long time. So applying new technologies for a short time is not going to make any sense. So we have to make it long time, and that way it's going to be sustainable, and business comes in a main part of it. So all these things going to get uh, are going to just benefit business as well. So we can take one of these as business, and can work on this just to keep the Gartner life cycle in life. So that's that in business and opportunities. And thank you so much. I am Jamna Shri Gopal Krishnan, by the way. You have any questions?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. It was an amazing session. Yes, dear students, now the session is open for questions. You may post your questions right now. Yes, dear students, you can also post your questions via chat. I can read it out for you.
Yes. I'm reading a question. Initial cost is more. Can you give us an estimation? So it depends on how much land we are going to use and which method we are going to adopt. So we can either set up a rooftop system where it can be left completely open, or we can erect a poly house or just a green shade net, and that's going to differ. But just with green shade and with the let's say 1,000 square feet, it's going to be 2 lakhs. That's what we had studied, and that's a lot when we compare it to other kinds of grow methods. But it's just going to get saturated. The return of investment when it comes to this is going to be in a shorter period. You can get the return in a very short period, and it's just going to be profit after that.
Yes, dear students, do you have any more questions? All right. Uh, that was a wonderful session, madam. It was really amazing and it was really informative. Uh, Thanks for the wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank you
Just
so
in
much.
case if I get any more questions from the students end, we'll make sure that they get posted to you.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. So that was a great evening. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Sir. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Yes. All right. All right, dear students. So now it's time for session 10. Now I invite, I request Dr. K. Rajan, Assistant Professor in Hydroponics, to invite number 2.
Yeah. A very good evening to everyone. On this occasion, we have with us the esteemed presence of today's resource person, Mr. Anand Bellan Raman sir. I am very pleased to introduce Mr. Anand Bellan Raman sir. He is the co-founder and COO of Krishi Chandra Clonut Automation System Private Limited, Hyderabad, Telangana, a leading agri-tech startup in soil technology, farm data acquisition, and analytics. He obtained his PhD chemistry degree from Bharatiyar University, Coimbatore. After that, he served as team leader, technical, first computers, regional head, West STG International Limited, head business development, career plan, regional manager, global learning services, South India and also Sri Lanka in Red Hat India, regional head, South India and Sri Lanka, education solutions, Adopt Systems India Private Limited, Manager, Education Services, SAP India Private Limited. He is one of the partners in farm and forest, hydroponic farming and soilless cultivation, growing of pesticide-free strawberries, cherries, tomatoes, exotic leafy vegetables and herbs, hydroponic consulting and training, production of pesticide-free processed food such as preserves and dry herbs. He is also a partner in Farmcraft, trading of specialty tea, coffee, and chocolates. I express my gratitude to Mr. Anand Raman sir for accepting our invitation and grace this event. Today, he is going to deliver his lecture on agri-tech and emerging opportunities in India. Now, I request Mr. Anand Raman sir to take over this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Soundarajan. Very good evening to one and all. Let me share my presentation and then you take it forward. Able to see my presentation? So almost 10 years back, I mean, when I was working for Adobe, I mean, as you know, that I mean, is one of the fourth largest software companies in the world. So when we were looking into the career opportunities, we used to tell people, saying that if you really, I mean, have to look forward to the right career opportunity, you should not be looking into the jobs that are there at present. You should actually be looking into the jobs that are going to get created 10 years down the line. And that is precisely, I mean, how, I mean, we have observed, I mean, over this particular decade, I mean, how things were um, kind of, I mean, changing. And when I moved away from this particular IT services, I mean, on to that of, I mean, agriculture, I mean, that was pretty new to me. But however, it has taken me quite a while. I mean, it almost spent a decade there. I mean, where from production or growing crops or as a farmer, I have also, I mean, moved up, I mean, into what is called as, I mean, agri. So this particular session, I mean, which Congrad has organized in terms of revisiting the traditional agricultural systems is very, very apt because every aspect, I mean, of agriculture today is getting revisited. I'm not very sure, I mean, if you keep following, I mean, news in terms of agriculture, there are a lot of things like, I mean, farm to fork, farm to factory, precision agriculture, sustainability, digital transformation, carbon credits. And there are a lot of buzzwords, I mean, that is actually, I mean, going around, I mean, in this particular field. Now, if you see that, I mean, what exactly, I mean, is happening to, I mean, agriculture today, or if you're trying to, I mean, or whether this particular traditional agriculture, I mean, is being revisited, then I think we need to understand a little bit in terms of agriculture and the current Indian economy. I'm not sure, I mean, how many of you would know that, I mean, we have something close to around 58%, I mean, of our population that is depending upon farming alone. And today, I mean, we have close to almost 43%, I mean, of the total workforce in our country that is into farming. And we are contributing 16% to the GDP. And 16% is big. And agriculture plays a very, very important role. If the monsoons are good, then I think your stock markets, I mean, are up. And most of the other industries also, I mean, do very well. Your automobile industry does well. Your other related industries, I mean, which is into textiles or jewelry, I mean, housing, real estate, I mean, everything, I mean, kinds of does well. So there is a quite a bit of dependency that you can see in terms of the agricultural GDP. And India, as per us, I mean, you know that, I mean, is pretty big, I mean, in some of these particular areas, whether we are talking about something in terms of rice and wheat or in terms of spices, we're talking about milk, which we are one of the largest producers. And the kind of agroclimatic zones that we have got here in India, I mean, is so vast. And we have got the largest, I mean, arable land, I mean, in the world. But if you look into the flip side, I mean, of the same agriculture right at this particular moment, I mean, we're talking about 43%, I mean, of the entire workforce contributing to almost, what do you call, I mean, 16%, I mean, of this particular GDP. You are able to see that, I'm sorry.